Hello, sister. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Little tired. You still have five, six video to upload, and I have to do those on weekends one by one.
Yeah.
So you know, I've been going through your profile. Okay,
Yeah.
there are very interesting things that I'm finding you. I'll dig dive there, but before that, let's start with the introduction. Introduction, not like just a normal introduction, but yeah, whatever you want to share with us, like
Okay.
whatever people hasn't heard about you till now.
Well, I don't think that many people have heard of me anyway, but uh, I'm currently a senior director for EPAM systems, but I've been in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud Exact Target world for about 14 years now. Prior to that, I was on the web development side of things. I've been building websites and doing digital stuff since 1995, when I built the first website for the ski resort that I worked at. We were the third ski resort in the world with a website and the first ones to build it ourselves. And I've just been doing digital stuff ever since.
Mhm. And what about your childhood days? How was your childhood?
I was at what?
Childhood, yeah, when you was school, when you used to go to school and all.
Sure. Gosh. So I grew up here in Colorado, which is where I'm at today.
Mhm.
And I went to school in the mountains in a tiny little town west of Denver, and uh, started playing around with computers. Gosh, I want to say in like eighth grade, so early '80s, when my dad brought home an Apple IIc.
Mhm.
So really old computer. Most people who watch this aren't going to know what that is. They're going to have to Google it. But yeah, I've always dabbled with computers. I went to college to be an aerospace engineer, but calculus kind of ruined that plan for me because I'm not good at that level of math. And a roommate of mine had a computer, and I was always playing with it. And I don't know, I guess computers just came naturally to me. So I've been doing, like I said, doing digital stuff for a very long time. I was involved in the the social media aspects of the internet before they had a label. If anybody remembers what the Usenet news groups are, I was involved in Usenet communities for skiing and for other various things that I was involved in at the time. I can't remember, but the skiing ones really stand out in my mind, because I was someone who grew up skiing in Colorado, and that was always a sought out resource for people planning vacations and stuff before the web became a thing. It's kind of
Mhm.
crazy to think about growing up before the internet was the big deal that it is now.
But when you're in your college or in the school days, you basically, I saw that you were doing something with the
But the what?
aviation, aeronautical.
Yeah. So my degree is in aviation business administration with an emphasis
Mm.
in airport operations. I graduated from Medical University in Prescott, Arizona in 1994, which happened to be the same time that they were building Denver International Airport. And what I had always been told about that school was we were the Harvard of the skies, and getting a job in aviation wouldn't be a problem. But I was kind of limited because I wanted to be in Colorado. So I put in my resume and an application out at Denver International. Never got a phone call back. Never heard word one from them. So I needed a job, and I was staying with my mom up in Summit County at the time. So my first job was out of college, was in the accounting department for Keystone Ski Resort. But accounting was not the future for me, and Copper Mountain was looking for just an IT generalist, somebody to come in, fix computers, install software, do basic IT stuff. So I was able to get in there and convince them that the internet was going to be a big deal. So they're like, great, figure out how to do it. That's when I built the website.
Mm. So, what you have to say about Richard Branson?
Richard Branson?
Mhm.
That's really random. Uh, I had the good fortune of being able to ask him a question at Connections once when it was still held in Indianapolis. He was a guest speaker, and he had just arrived, I think, from Australia shortly before he came on stage, and he wasn't feeling well, but he gave a great presentation about, if I recall correctly, about just the future of societal problems and how things like the Ansari X Prize are going to help incentivize people to come up with solutions even faster. I think that was the same presentation. But at the end, and anybody who's been to Connections with me knows, I've always got to ask somebody a question. So I got up to the microphone and asked Richard Branson a question, and turned around to sit down, and he's like, "No, stay there. I want to address your question to you," which was really a cool moment because, most of the time when you are seeing a keynote speaker or a guest speaker at a conference, they take the question and then they walk around the stage and they talk to everybody there. And in that moment, it felt like he was talking right to me as opposed to the whole audience. And so that was a really cool moment for sure. I wish I could remember what the question was or what the response was, but I honestly don't. But, for him to take his time to act like that on stage when he's not feeling well, when he's exhausted, I thought it was a very gracious move, and I appreciate that about him for sure.
So his airspace plans, the way he has done, and there were a lot of things that happened, right? I was going through a lot of videos where I saw that a few milliseconds of a mistake by the astronauts. They all. So when you see all this news, what comes to your mind?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in any of those spaces. So, it's unfortunate to me when things go bad. It's amazing to me when things go well. I think that's part of just any type of exploration. And I think that, space in particular, but even to a large degree, aviation still, there's still a lot of stuff we don't know. There's a lot of capabilities that we're not aware of. And to me, it's still an exciting space from a hobbyist standpoint. Like Top Gun Maverick is a big movie this year. And as soon as I saw the opening scenes for that and saw that airplane that somebody designed that's not really real, it made me wonder immediately, like, how close to reality is this? Like, I know that our military still has to be developing just insane airplanes that are capable of doing things that nobody's ever thought possible. But we don't have any awareness of it. The sad reality is, and this is true for every society around the world, other countries know more about what's going on with programs like that than people in our own country do. I don't understand the need for that level of secrecy, but that's because I'm more of a purist, right? I love knowing that there are airplanes out there that can go 3 to 10 times the speed of sound. That's a really cool thing. And when I went to school,
I can go inside that Area 51 and I can ask you a question about
it. Yeah. I would love to go into Area 51. It'd be really neat. I mean, I've driven from Las Vegas to Reno, Tahoe before. And when you get north of Las Vegas, there are a lot of gunnery ranges for the Army and the Air Force and different parts of the military. I've sat out there and watched A-10s on practice gun missions before, and it's just the coolest thing to watch these things fly and do what they do. It's really neat. It's far more exciting than commercial aviation.
Yeah, because I listened to everything, including Area 51 and the narrative of the UFO that is being building. Okay. So now going back to, again, I have studied a lot about Richard Branson. Okay. Now you have Elon Musk as well. Whom do you see like be a better visionary?
That's a good one. I don't know. I mean, I used to have a lot of respect for Elon Musk. I mean, he's clearly a brilliant person, but I don't necessarily agree with a lot of his positions on things, and some of the way he's gotten involved in Twitter has turned me off to Twitter. Like, I don't even go on there anymore. It feels to me like he embraces chaos, which is not necessarily good for society. I think Branson has more idealistic visions as opposed to egotistic visions. I think Musk has reached that level where he's more egotistical and thinks his way is the only way. I think what I've seen from Richard Branson is that, yeah, he's got a plan for how he wants to do things or how things ought to be done, but he's also open-minded and listens to other people. And I think that's critical.
Yeah. For me, I have when we have a discussion with friends. So on Elon Musk, I simply say he needs to visit a psychiatrist, nothing more. So
Yeah.
uh, coming back to you. Okay. So I was going through your profile. Mm. You say, yeah, I connect people. You have said this. Okay.
Yeah.
I have the chief among those in the ability to bridge the gap between marketing and IT team.
Mm-hmm.
You go on saying that, but one thing which I saw this, okay, and I can't stop laughing here. Okay, just you tell me this. And if you are connecting with me just to try and sell something, I'll drop you faster than a hot cast iron skillet in your bare hands.
I can't remember what's on my profile. That's funny. Yeah, but yeah, that makes sense. But I connect people because it's well, I'll give you the short version of it. So when I first got involved in email marketing 14, 15 years ago, I was totally new to the space. I had a little bit of limited experience at blowing up mail servers and things like that earlier in the 90s, but I didn't really do email marketing as a profession. And uh, a friend of mine at the time reached out and said, "Hey, I want you to run email marketing for this group of companies that I manage." I'm like, okay, it can't be that hard. So I start learning the principles of it all, and that part made sense. But then I found out that we were going to be moving to Exact Target. And so I started reaching out to people who were directly involved in the Exact Target community and the greater email marketing community as a whole. And these are old school names that a lot of people don't know anymore, but people like Lauren McDonald, Joel Book, who used to be Exact Target, even Alex Williams comes to mind. You know, I was fortunate to meet a bunch of people in a conference here in Denver. Stephanie Miller is another one. I got to meet them at this conference that was held in Denver. And, you know, after each session that I went up there and introduced myself to the speaker and said, "Hey, you know, do you mind if I reach out to you if I have questions further down the road?" And in the case of Joel, you know, I was moving on to Exact Target platforms. I'm like, "If I've got questions, can I contact you?" And all of them were very gracious and said, "Yes, of course." I'm sure they didn't expect me to ask as many questions as I did. But they were incredibly gracious with their time. They always responded to my questions in a thoughtful and meaningful way that showed me that they were giving me valuable parts of their time. And that left an impression on me. And ever since then, now I can count those people as being very good friends of mine. But ever since then, I have always felt like I owe this debt to the email marketing community because nobody studies email marketing as a profession. We've all fallen into it through some other way. I have yet to meet anybody who has a degree in email marketing. I'm sure that schools are building curriculums for it and it's going to become a thing, but it's not there now. And so when people are in the community and they have questions, if they're looking for a job, and I know somebody who's looking to fill that kind of a role, if it's people I've worked with in the past and I can connect them into another role somewhere else, whatever the case is, I'm always happy to make those connections for people because of that obligation I feel towards the community to give back as much as people before me gave to me. I owe all of my success to the people that took that time out of their day, out of their schedule, out of what they had going on to share their insights with me. And I don't take that lightly. It's a huge, huge thing for me. So yeah, I mean, I've left jobs and handpicked the successor because I knew somebody could fall into that role and do really well. So yeah, I don't know how else to describe it other than that, but it's from a pure sense of connecting people. For work stuff, absolutely not. I'm not a salesman. I don't sell stuff for a living. I understand there's a need for that. But if you're going to reach out to me cold via LinkedIn, and it's funny you mentioned that because I've dropped 5 people this week because as soon as I accepted their invitation to connect, they tried to sell me something. And I don't know them. I don't know their company. I don't care. If I'm a user of a product, if I've seen a product that I'm a passionate believer in, then yes, absolutely. I'm happy to connect people with you. But
Yeah.
if you are providing a solution and you haven't done your homework about who I am and what I do and what level of influence I have, which honestly isn't much, then you haven't done your homework right. And I'm just another cold lead. I have no patience for that because I'm not just a cold lead. I have more valuable things to do with my time than sort through the nonsense. That's not to say that there's not some great stuff out there, but so many people that reach out to me and say that, hey, I'm with a recruiting company and I've got these 3 Salesforce engineers who would be great for you. Well, we have a recruiting team at my company. I don't need your help in that regard. Or people come to me and say, we've got this amazing data backup solution for Salesforce CRM. Nowhere in my resume does it say I know anything about Salesforce CRM. I do not. And those platforms are different. As anybody in the marketing cloud space knows, it's an entirely different platform than the rest of Salesforce. And so why bring something to me that is useless? It's just a waste of my time. So
See,
I,
yeah, see, I understand most of the part what you are saying because
Mhm.
fewer things, I'll not say all the things, but few of the things which I resonate with you. Okay. And when I start following people and when I say, I basically dig very deep. It's a very dig, I go very inside. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I follow, it's not like any other people, how they follow. I follow what you're writing, what you're posting, what you're commenting, everything I follow. I've seen you helping people. I've seen you when somebody is need of something. You are there. Okay, you are asking questions. You are reposting it. And I've seen you and Isa doing that religiously. Okay,
Hmm.
and yeah, and your name. Yeah, obviously there will be a list of people. Will obviously there's a lot of list of people that uh, people say. Okay, Sasi, talk to them person. I understand that. Okay,
Hmm.
but it has to be my personal choice there where
Yeah.
whom I want to go, and where I go is basically to whom I relate to. Okay,
Hmm.
like if I find the same mind, you say the same mindset that we have, then it will be a more natural conversation rather than going to someone and trying to make a conversation where we do not align. Then it will be like the people starts calling me I'm being controversial. It's not controversial. It is a difference between your philosophy and my philosophy of life,
Right.
right? So what you said, like, yeah, I'm in debt to those people who helped me. The same thing that I felt, right? Like, okay, whatever I am now, whatever be in that position, okay, where I'm helping, trying to help people, then some people also help me when I was
Hmm.
in need. And now I feel the same. Like, why I'm doing this? Because I was in a struggle phase where I was looking for help, and I found a help. Then now, when I am capable enough to do something, be it 10% for what you all are doing, I'm going to do it for that, right? So, uh, and I don't forget anybody who basically helped me, be
Right.
it from the childhood days,
Yep.
right? And when you're actually see that's what I do with when I was speaking with Tony. Okay,
Hmm.
and I'm very good at body language and everything as well. So when I asked Tony and when he gave your name, okay, and the sincerity with what he says, okay, a lot of people will heckle around or they will be murmuring and all, but when he's saying it, it really means that it's coming from his heart. So
Yeah.
that's why I told you, like, it's coming from heart. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's how I connect now. But you have, and you have some kind of a persona, where I was going through all the recommendations written there. People call you uncanny. People call you blunt. Okay,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
yeah, and in a very good way. It's not like, not everybody can become blunt and uncanny. I'm also one of that person where my management knows me very well, that if
Hmm.
you bring Sasi, he will be going to be very blunt.
Right.
Okay, so uh, and so in this term, I was trying to phrase this term saying that people call you indifferent. Okay, indifferent not in terms of sympathy, but in terms of being blunt. That
Hmm.
is what I quoted for you.
Okay.
Okay, when I write and I quote it for you, this for you. Okay. Now you have one tips that you have written. You have six tips that you have written there, and one was like further from the truth, and it's related to, you said, science and arts when it comes to marketing.
Hmm.
Can you explain this one?
I'm trying to remember these tips I wrote. Was that in the Only Influencers blog?
Yeah, you in one. I have to again recollect. Yeah, I have to recollect. Yeah, this in your blog where you have said the marketing is farther from the truth. It's more of a it's more of a art than a science, or you're mixing it science and art. Yeah, there's a discussion with science and art.
Hmm.
Let
I'm
me. I have
just,
to open. Yeah, did you
yeah, I
find
just
that?
brought it up. I'm looking for it.
You have shared six tips.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the one. So the six tips I see were making a full commitment, check your
Mhm.
fear at the door, find out who your ESP is, identify the competitors, locate resources, and ask questions. So this is the first one.
Yeah, there is one. Again, I have to open it. Yeah, there is. You have discussed regarding the marketing where you say it is more with related to science and art. There's a
Hmm.
point that you have mentioned. Okay, maybe see this is how I dig into. Okay, where you say yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember this. I'm trying. I
okay,
want to find it so I can remember the context.
okay. I'll move to the other one then.
Okay.
Okay, you have also mentioned I made a mistake that resulted in our company being in news for days. Now you.
Yes. I know this one well. Do you want me to elaborate on it? I mean, most people know the story. But so a few years ago, I was working for Ticketmaster, and we were the official ticketing partner for the presidential inauguration. And this was for Obama's, I believe it was his second inauguration. Um, so I was in Washington, D.C. with the Ticketmaster team, and my job was to communicate to very specific lists of people about the different events that were going on sale, when they were going to be on sale, how much the tickets were going to be, if there was a fee at all. Some of them were fee-based, some of them were free. So one night, really, really late at night, I had prepared an email that basically said, here's your private URL to go buy your allocation of tickets for these events. And, the people, I wasn't involved in deciding who was allocated what and or any of that kind of thing. I just knew we had a list of people that were interested in tickets to the event. It turns out that there were a number of people who were on that list. It was everybody who didn't have enough influence to just be given tickets by whomever was in charge. These were all people that had to compete with everyone else. But I had this email prepared, and I thought that I had it scheduled to go out 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning, because that's when the on sale was supposed to happen. And as soon as I had somebody come and double check it. They looked at the screen, double checked all the things. They're like, no, that looks fine. As soon as I hit the button, I knew something was wrong. And I think our list was about 150,000 people. You've sent email out of Marketing Cloud. You know how fast it sends. So I knew something was wrong right away. and I go back into the system. I'm like, okay, this is already sending, but it was way too late for me to stop it. 1 second, I'm gonna move my dog. He's making noise. So the emails went out, and as expected, immediately people started following the links, going to the website and trying to get their tickets for whatever the events were. Number of problems around this. The first one is that the ticketing team wasn't ready. They hadn't finished what they were doing to load the inventory into the site. The site wasn't active. So we as a group made a decision, and I asked people, I'm like, okay, we can do one of two things here. We can either print a retraction and say, sorry, this email went out early, or which I had ready to go. I was within just pushing send to get it out the door. Or the other option was to go live with the on sale. So the representative that was there from the DNC or whatever part of the Democratic Party was involved in the inauguration, the Presidential Inauguration Committee, the PIC, they made the decision to go ahead and just put them on sale. So everybody was good with that. We put it on sale, and I think every ticket for every event sold out in less than an hour, probably under 30 minutes. Not quite a Taylor Swift situation, but they went pretty fast. So we got our work done. I went back for the night, and then woke up the next morning, and oh my gosh, the world was ending. So there was all sorts of news stories going on about how Ticketmaster had put the tickets on sale early, and that wasn't supposed to happen. And people on all sides of the media spectrum were saying it was some kind of bizarre conspiracy. I remember specifically Rachel Maddow just going on and on and on about what a conspiracy this was and how evil Ticketmaster was and all of these things, when really it was just a simple QA mistake that I made before I pushed the button. That's all it was. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to exclude anybody from going. But what made it worse was that there was somebody on the inside within the campaign committee that had told a very specific group of people, again, donors who hadn't donated enough to just be given tickets, but had donated a lot of money so that they should know when tickets were going to be made available. They were told, check your email at 4 a.m. because that's when the email is going to come and you can get your tickets to come to the inaugural events. So a lot of Washington insiders who weren't inside enough were expecting this email. So they were off doing whatever they were doing the night before and not really thinking about it. There was a Washington Redskins playoff football game that night too, so a lot of people were at the game. Like anybody who's going to those games and doing that kind of stuff, not thinking about emails the next morning. So yeah, it was a mistake that crossed a lot of levels of people within the political society. And I had the fortune or misfortune, however you look at it, of being the one that was monitoring the return mail inbox. So I was seeing all the replies from people saying, I can't believe this email went out so early and all the tickets are gone and I missed my one chance to attend one of these events and all of that kind of stuff. And I felt terrible. I felt awful for all these people. And, you know, for people that had a genuine chance of getting these tickets, they're the ones that I felt the most bad for. I felt less bad for the specialized insiders who were told to look for this email at a very specific time. To me, they're no more special than anybody else, and they should have the same chance at getting tickets as the average American would for something like that. So I didn't feel too bad for those people. But again, this conspiracy theory floated around in the national media for, I want to say, 2 or 3 days. And I just kept hoping that some other thing would happen in the world to take the focus of the media off of us and put it on something else. And I learned a lot of things about a lot of people through that process. The immediate team that I was working with for these events, they were outstanding. I had one guy say, that's nothing. I made a mistake and it cost us $40,000 walking out the door when I was working in a box office once, stuff like that. And in the grand scheme of things, my mistake didn't cost anybody their life. My mistake didn't cost anybody any money, but it was a publicity problem. And, as we've seen with anything related to Ticketmaster over the last 10 years, any negative publicity problem becomes a much more amplified one because of how their business model is. And so I felt terrible, but I had a tremendous amount of support from my manager. My manager was back here in Denver, called me right away. She's like, you know what, no matter what, I got your back. I want you to know that. And she did. She had me covered through the whole process. The CEO of the company at the time, I talked to him. That's the level that this got to. I talked to him and he was supportive. There were other people in between those two that weren't as supportive and tried to claim that they felt bad for me and had me covered much later when I saw them at other meetings. But I know firsthand that they didn't. And so it opened my eyes to internally who I could trust at that company and who I couldn't.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting exercise given the responsibilities that some of those people had. But at the same time, for me personally, I can laugh about it now, but I can't tell you the tremendous amount of fear and disappointment I had in myself at the time. I was scared for my job. I was scared for my career. This was easily one of the biggest email mistakes that could be made. That didn't threaten anybody's lives or livelihood or anything like that. But it's not like a data breach, but it's still a big mistake. It was a big mistake because of the stage that it happened on and the amount of publicity surrounding it.
But tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Like you said that insider information, right?
Mhm.
You came to this later to understand there was some inside information that people are passing on. No?
Did not know beforehand at all that
Yeah.
people within the committee were telling other people, not super donors, but donors, to watch for those emails at a certain time. I didn't know any of that until a couple of days later as we were trying to break down what happened and why things went the way they did. And that's what ended up happening. Some people who thought they were privileged weren't able to get their seats for the events that they wanted. And I think they leaked it to the media and made a big deal out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, all these mistakes actually, I feel like you didn't do it intentionally. That became
No.
on in here. So it always acts as a boon because, like, I don't know if you follow Jordan Peterson. Yeah, what he
Hmm.
says is, do you follow him?
I don't think so. No. Go ahead though.
Okay, he says, uh, share good news with when you need to know to whom you're sharing the good news with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So he even goes into say like friends, okay, they will be happy for you, okay.
Yeah.
The others, the good news when you share with them, it doesn't go in the same hand.
Right.
So he makes a very interesting remarks. I listen to him because sometimes it is quite different, but most of the time it's actually I can see the different side of him. Okay?
No, that makes sense.
And
I should look into that for sure. For sure.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
one of the good things that came out of this event too, though, was, a little bit later in my career when I was at Trendline, I was working with Alex Williams. It fostered some good conversations for Alex and I. He's like, you've made this colossal mistake and you learned from it. But in agency life, we almost have this zero tolerance policy for mistakes, whether it's on the client side where they are not allowing us to make mistakes, or internally at the agency where we don't allow people to make mistakes. We expect everybody to be perfect all the time. But historically, throughout any industry or any part of your life, mistakes are where the real learning opportunities happen. And
Yeah.
so Alex and I would talk for hours about how would we create a culture where some degree of mistake is acceptable to give
Mm,
people an opportunity to learn instead of holding
mm,
them to this golden standard for so long that's going to create bigger problems down the road because they haven't learned anything. Um, I don't know that we ever solved it, but ever since we started having those conversations, it's always been in the back of my mind, no matter where I've worked at. So I think I've actually done a presentation on this for Inbox Expo, which is happening in Spain next week. I did a presentation about that in the past. How do you create a culture where mistakes are acceptable? And it's an interesting thought, and I don't think enough people consider that when they are thinking about this world and the things that we do. You have
mm.
mistakes of a certain magnitude have to be acceptable in order for people.
Mm, yeah, but uh, we can't be that flexible enough that we allow people, because nowadays, when you say work-life balance and all, okay, when this circle is coming around,
Mm-hmm.
people are more advocate with work-life balance. Okay, they are not very serious with their work, what I can see. Okay, and if you give that leverage, saying that allow the mistakes, but they are not all the same people. Okay,
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of people make mistakes intentionally, but that has to be in check. If you say
Mm-hmm.
that accept the mistake, then it has another aversion to it. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, see, I have also done a mistake. I do mistakes and learn from them, right? Like
Yep.
if I'm doing a web development, I'm from a .NET background, and when we develop the website, and I'm a junior guy, okay, and I'm making in the deployment I made a mistake, but I came to know about IIS. So when I go to the IIS, and I can pull down the IIS configuration, okay, make it something is going wrong if I'm doing with the financial banking websites, where I
Right.
can't take a chance of making a mistake. If I make a small mistake, it is going to cause a big harm. So one of my architect helped me to understand IIS. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I came to know about IIS. Okay, here is this configuration where I what I can do. Okay, so I was able to learn in a very early age, where
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't go learning to that path.
Right.
Okay, and I have come to learn about, like, say, in marketing cloud also. Okay, when I was new, they didn't have different segregation of business unit for different regions. They were using one business unit for EMEA, where you have all the different countries. Okay, and we were sending some communications, and I send an Arabic email to the UK client.
Mm-hmm.
So you just understand, I'm firing thousands of email. Maybe it was 10,000. If I
Yep.
have to remember, okay, it it was written in Arabic.
Uh-huh.
So
But
it
not
it
native
was
language.
reported. It was reported. It was asked as a terrorist act.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I have done that mistake. Okay,
Yep.
and I was asked to present why that mistake happened,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have a segregation of business unit. I selected wrong. Then, but one of my it was not from my company, but from the client side. There was the project manager, okay, project owner. He turned the table very wisely, and I admire him for that. I'm not afraid, because I didn't do something illegal. Okay, it was a
Right.
mistake which I've agreed that I made a mistake, but
Yeah.
my management was little scary, but I was not scared. I was like, I am open to say what I have done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned the table very beautifully. Like we were present. He had actually presented a PPT to his board. Okay, where I was also present, and he said, like, we have a VWAP. Okay, where you click, it goes to the browser, and you can basically view the email as well. And there is, you can translate the email what is written there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you also have, with the cam spam and all, you also have the physical address from where it is being sent, from who is sending it. So that reporting, he turned the table, and I became like, man. I was like, and
That's cool.
I I was like, my management were afraid. Okay, but the person in the client side was no, he was very good person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he could have definitely said lot of things to me, but he didn't. He said, "This is." He accepted it. He said, "Yeah, we." He said, like, "Okay, what you are going to do next? That is there in the proposal. Okay,
Yep.
but this is not a, you should not make it a hue and cry about it." So,
Yeah. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned out of that process is when you make a mistake that has an order of magnitude to it, you have to have a remediation plan. You have
mm,
to take ownership of it, which I had no problem taking ownership of. I screwed up.
mm,
Uh, but if you have a plan to either make sure it doesn't happen again or a plan to address the issue that just happened, then people are more not accommodating. People are more understanding, but they're also
mm,
more impressed that, okay, and they can go to that place that your client person did, right? Like, okay, so we know this mistake happened. We know that the impact is this, but there's ways to make sure it doesn't happen again. There's ways that people can figure out it wasn't a terrorist situation or whatever the case might be. That's good. I wish there were more people like that in companies in general.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
but some
you, yeah.
politics is about pointing the finger and blaming somebody else
Mm.
and creating more problems and drama instead of moving business forward. I, I, I thank you for sharing your experience and especially the fact that there was somebody positive on the other side that helped you through it because those people are rare and they need to be celebrated.
Yeah, I feel like I was just nodding my head when he was saying, and I was just looking at my management saying, "See, this is
Yeah.
how things has to be said." Okay, you people have to, because I'm okay with talking with the, you have the legal department. I'm open to discussing with them. Okay, tell me what is the consequence. Okay,
Hmm.
or what you. So there is no consequence. You just have to send an apology letter. Okay,
Yeah.
it was a mistake.
Right.
Okay, so it's not a big deal. So it's only like a few people. I don't want to go there, but there are few people who find energy and happiness on those things.
Hmm.
So it is for them. It's not for me. And I'm not a person who basically shy away. I open with, I don't care who the person is, be it anyone. So tell me, because first understand, I come from a .NET background. I come with full architecture background. Okay,
Hmm.
how you design your architecture. So I'll point out to the architects that why you design this business unit in such this way if you have such issues. Anyway, uh, I was going through this recommendation. Okay, and when I was talking with Corina, okay,
Hmm.
Corina Cohen, she gave me one name. Okay, where I felt very energized with this person, Al Iverson, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Al
The
Iverson.
spam resource, the spam
Yep.
resource guy. So he says Chester is a great guy. I have worked with him across few different companies, and we have worked together to solve problems for a multitude of mutual clients. Now he goes on to say he is extremely Salesforce exact target savvy and has a great level of general technical knowledge as well. So, with the last line, when he says he has a great level of general technical knowledge as well, what he's
Mhm.
trying to imply here.
Well, I think it comes back to what I say about being able to bridge the gap between IT and marketing. I've worked in both of those worlds. I've been
Mhm,
an IT support specialist. I've done database work. I will never claim to be a DBA, but I know how
mhm,
databases work. I understand normalization of data. I understand issues like network latency and things like that. So everything that is out there that can impact the quality or speed of delivery of a program, I have some understanding of. Now, it's not in depth. I'm not an expert in any of those areas, but I know what the issues can be, and I know the questions to ask when we're trying to solve a problem. That's my how I feel about it. I'm flattered that Al had such nice things to say. I adore him. I love working with him. And I've respected him for years. So for him to say those things, that's fantastic. I appreciate that.
So, uh, now tell me one thing. In your
Mhm.
profile, you have written, okay, I am the first SFMC MVP.
Yep.
But Adam has said that no, it is Chris Julo. So,
Hmm.
how is that? Yeah.
I don't know when Chris was named, but in 2016, when I was an MVP, I was an SF. I was asked to be an SFMC MVP right after Salesforce acquired Exact Target. So I would have to look
Mm.
at when Chris was, but I'm pretty sure that was me because it was 2016 and they just started the program.
Then the full SFMC community, maybe yeah, this has to be validated then. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
because
it doesn't matter to me either way. If it was Chris, that's great because he's done a lot of great things for the community too. So I personally don't care. I just, I take the small things when I can. So I feel like that's a small thing.
yeah, no, obviously it's not a big thing, but just a validation saying that okay, maybe because you have written in your profile, so a lot of people might say, oh, he's not. That way, the other people might think. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it's something for me to look up. Nobody's ever questioned it to me before, so I've never had a
Mm,
reason to look, but I will absolutely look it up now.
mm, yeah. So tell me one thing. Okay, when I was going through your profile, hmm,
Hmm.
in your certification section, okay, you don't have mentioned any marketing cloud certification, but you have mentioned MVP, marketing champion, and all. But you haven't mentioned other certifications like email specialist, consultant, and all. Why
Hmm.
so?
To be honest, I haven't done a lot of them. Um, I have mixed feelings on the certification program, but for the positions that I have been in, I haven't needed to be certified in a certain way.
Mm,
I've been more for probably the last, I don't know, say 10 years now. I've been more
mm,
managerial than hands-on. I still do hands-on work right now. I'm 50% billable. Um, but I haven't found that having a lack of a certification means I don't know what I'm doing.
mm,
And people that I work with, they understand that I actually do know what I'm doing.
mm,
Um, the the other thing that helps me at least is being the co-author of the book, which I'm sure the
mm,
book is somewhere in your questions, so I'm ready to answer
yeah.
whatever questions you have about that.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, I've co-authored a book on it, so I feel like I'm qualified. And
mm,
any client that I've ever worked with has always been pleased with my output and recommendations and everything else. So I
mm.
just haven't personally put a lot of value on maintaining certifications. Um, and some of them I've had, they don't even do anymore. So it's
No, no, no. Uh, I'm asking just maybe I feel like okay, you have done it and you are not an advocate of certification and say I don't want to add it there. So it depends on different person's perception there. Okay.
yeah,
Uh, okay. Yeah. Definitely. See, first thing I'm going to the book, the dummies. Okay.
sure.
So before that, I would also say, like you said, McDonald's and other people who has actually helped you. Okay,
Hmm.
if they are in LinkedIn, please send me their profiles. Okay, I want to go through their profiles. Okay, yeah, let's go to the book now. In Marketing Cloud, we have now, as far as what I can browse, I browse in that Amazon. Okay, though script guide I can't see in Amazon. Hmm.
Hmm.
Your book and Greek's books are there.
Right.
Okay.
Greg's is the most
So
recent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you launch this?
Oh gosh. So the project was brought to us So I don't want to say I wrote the book. Mark Pollard was involved with me, and I would say Mark wrote more of it than I did. Um, but the project was brought to us shortly after Salesforce acquired ExactTarget. There was somebody who worked at ExactTarget who had this idea in his head to do the project, to write the book, and for whatever reason, Salesforce was not supportive of that. And so he was looking for somebody else to do that. And so he asked Mark and I what we thought about it. And as is often the case when I get in over my head, I said, how hard could it be? So I found out it's a lot harder to write a book than you would think. But gosh, I want to say that was in 2014 or 15 that came to us. Because I think we actually, no, 2015 or 16, because we actually published in 17. So, yeah.
Okay. So I think 2017, at the same time, say Elliot and Adam were also publishing at the same time, if my memory serves me well.
Elliot and Adam's book came out right around the same time as ours. Might have been a little bit after, a little bit before, but they were for two different audiences. And Elliot and Adam's book, I think I still have a copy of it around here somewhere, but it's been invaluable. I love those guys. And Elliot, I cannot say enough good things about Elliot. He is an absolute rock star, as everybody knows. Elliot will give you so much of his time. He's just a tremendous resource and a great guy. Adam is the same way. I am involved in monthly calls with Adam through Salesforce, and we talk to each other at conferences and all the things. And obviously we've both been around the ecosystem for a while, and Adam's always a fun one for me to talk with and engage with as well. I love talking to Adam.
Okay. So if I have to be very specific, okay. So what difference do you find in your book is Salesforce Marketing Cloud Dummies, okay, AMP script guide, and the automation that what Greg has written, automations for marketing?
I think the biggest difference is that the AMP script guide is the most timeless. When you look at how the Salesforce Marketing Cloud platform continues to evolve, our book was out of date as soon as it hit the shelf. The screenshots that are in it were maybe not valid anymore because the interface for whatever it was changed. So it's not as useful these days for anyone to know exactly how to do very specific things in Marketing Cloud. But it is still good for somebody who's new to the ecosystem, new to the environment, or new to email marketing to help them understand what the platform can do and at least how to think about solving a problem. It might not be a step-by-step guide to solving a problem, but it'll help you think about solving the problem. Adam and Elliot's book is very heavily technical in the AMP script world. That's why it's the AMP script guide. It's full of great information on each AMP script function that was available at the time that it was written. And on their website, they continue to evolve it and update the content. So I think they're doing an outstanding job there. Greg's book about automation, that is also for a more technical audience than the Dummies book or for the intro book that Mark and I wrote. But their book is also really, really useful to help people understand the different ways that you can interact with Marketing Cloud and the different things you can achieve with it through all the marketing automation topics that it covers. I find them all to be unique in their own way. There is room on my bookshelf for all three of them. There are different instances where I would refer to one over the other, but I use them all.
So tell me one thing. If you're given an opportunity to write another book in Marketing Cloud, you'll write a book?
I would have to think about it for a long time, because there's a lot of factors that go into it. I would not do a dummies style book again, most likely, because the format is so rigid. The way that Wiley, because they want consistency across their brand, right? So even something as simple as saying, click on this, They don't want you to say, click on this. They want you to say, select this. So there's a certain writing style that doesn't work with the way that I think and the way that I write. It was a monumental effort to translate my thoughts into how they want things presented. So if I was doing a book just purely for my own volition and I was able to write it the way that I want to, I would consider it. But it is also a tremendous investment of time to do that. And I have other things going on. I've got a grandson who's going to be born any minute now. So I'm going to spend time with him. You know, I've got my daughter graduating from high school, different daughter graduating from school in a couple of months. So, you know, I'm trying to maximize my time with her. I'm at a different stage of my life to where my free time, I think I use a little bit differently than I did, say, 10 years ago.
That makes sense. You know, see, but I'm just trying to be curious there. Okay. Like you said, like click and select one. Okay.
Yep.
When you write, why you have to follow what Salesforce has to say? Why it's not like the people
It wasn't Salesforce. It was Wiley, the publisher of the book.
publish. Okay.
So Wiley has many, many titles under the Dummies umbrella, right? Excel for Dummies, Word for Dummies, Salesforce Marketing Cloud for Dummies. They've got all these different titles. And so they want anybody who has bought a Dummies book to have the same experience no matter what the subject matter is. So they have a very rigid writing style.
Oh,
I understand.
the problem is with the publisher.
This doesn't work with me. Yeah, the publisher. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. I don't have any knowledge about publishers, so yeah.
Yeah. As far as Salesforce goes, they were not very supportive of the book. Once we published it, we took it to Connections in Chicago, and we were trying to give it away there. And Salesforce had people that came up to us and said, "You can't do that because you didn't pay to give the book away here." I'm like, this book is about your platform. We're giving this away. What I didn't understand. I still don't. But you know, the corporate side of working with people is different than some of the people that we work with in the platform. So
yeah. When I was having a discussion with Greek, there was a point of discussion where we were discussing capitalism. Okay, where we have to support the capitalism. Obviously, it has to be. But sometimes we are persons who wants to do it for the community. So there, the capitalism does not come into play. So that balancing out factor is a very difficult one.
It is, and you see it all the time. Greg's a good example of it. Tony is too. You know, Tony has that tool that he built that he released open source.
Open source, yeah.
So no, he works for a company that has expectations of him making a product too. So Tony has to walk that line between being billable or producing revenue and supporting the freeware thing that he made. So, and I respect the heck out of him for walking that line. I love Tony to death. He's an absolute, he's amazing. He's one of the brilliant young minds in this ecosystem, and I love him. He's just fantastic.
So yeah, I'm running out of time. As I said, right? I already said. See, if I have to make a conversation, it doesn't happen in a very slow. So now you understood why I said.
Yeah, sorry, my schedule is so tight, but yeah, I'm glad we were able to do this. Sure.
Yeah. So I have these questions that I actually want. Okay. Give me 5 top lists that comes to your mind with the SFMC Marketing Cloud.
5 top issues.
Favorite list of people.
Favorite list of people. Oh my gosh. Well, Joel Book, but I mean, Joel's not in the ecosystem anymore, but because he retired. But Joel has always been a great friend, a great advisor, and just gave me great advice along the way. You've already talked to Tony, but Tony's on there. I don't know who all you've actually interviewed, but are you looking for new names or just my top group of people?
Your 5 favorite people.
Okay. It's not just going to be Marketing Cloud people. It's going to be people in general. So Alex Williams,
Mhm.
Is one of my favorite people ever. And
Mhm.
I worked with Alex at Trendline. Alex knows Salesforce Marketing Cloud pretty well, but Alex more so is just, he's very, very smart about how consumers want to interact with a company, either through email or other channels. So Alex is a great resource. I love talking with him. Very dear friend. He lives up in Portland. God, who else am I thinking of? Now I've been put on the spot. There's so many people. Um, Brian Brahmas works for Salesforce, and he's on the partner side of things within Salesforce. Brian is an outstanding friend, has been for years. I've always enjoyed working with him and getting his perspective on things. Holy cow. I'm just trying to think. Let me see. Yeah, I wish I should have thought about this ahead of time. This is like anything else. I can't limit it to just 5 because there are so many awesome people. But
No, no. This is what everybody keeps on saying. That's
yeah,
for me. It's like what is striking currently. The 5 names, that is the more important one. Yeah, obviously you can say sorry to the last moment, but the 5 names that should be spontaneous. I feel
I mean, if
everyone
I
knows.
just, let's see. Okay, so James Lamb.
Mhm.
James is outstanding. Um, Greg Gifford, fantastic human being. Um, Let me see. I'm just trying to think of who else. Gosh, I mean those are ones that bubble up. Gilda Hilaire at Salesforce. She's the queen of all of this. She's responsible for keeping this community together, and she does an outstanding job of that. I think she's
Mhm.
very underappreciated within Salesforce personally. I don't think Salesforce management understands how good she is and what a great job she is doing for them. Um,
You're given 6 names. It's already 6 now. You don't have
yeah,
to worry.
I could,
So
I,
you have
I could,
given Joel's name, Alex. Okay, I'm just again recollecting you.
yeah,
Joel's name, then Alex, then you gave Brian, James, Greg, and Gilda. So
yeah,
I have already noted those 6 names. I know 2 of them. Maybe I don't know the other. Maybe you can send me the link of them. So it will be easy for me, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I don't want to waste your time more, but I have one last question. Let me ask you one last question. Okay,
yeah.
and the whole conversation actually for me is regarding this last question only. Okay,
Okay.
so it is the advice that you want to give to the new people who are joining Salesforce. Okay, who
Hmm.
want to build a career in Salesforce, and how the person has to be. So they'll just contributing community to become a MVP or to become a marketing champion, or how the uh, project that how they should basically go after developing their career path.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is to figure out quickly if this is the industry for you. Email marketing is not for everybody, or multi-channel marketing, which is what we do now. It's not for everybody. If this is the industry for you, if you really get energized by it, if you really enjoy it, then get involved. Get involved in Email Geeks Slack, get involved in Stack Exchange, get involved in whatever communities there are, the Trailblazer or Trailhead community, all of those. But you have to network. Networking is everything in this business, because the average time that I see somebody being at any given company, on average, I think is about 2 years. So you're going to need that network to find your next job. You're going to need that network when you need advice. Is my management crazy in asking me to do this thing? Am I crazy for reporting on these metrics? Whatever the situation is, everybody needs a mentor type person or a resource that they can bounce ideas off of. So the only way to find those people are to get involved in these communities. The more that you're involved as a hiring manager, that is more important to me than saying you have 20 Salesforce certifications. I would rather
Mm,
know that you are learning everything there is to know about the business as opposed to just the platform.
mm,
Because if for some reason we decide to switch platforms, now you still know what you're doing, It's just in a different platform. The business knowledge and the business experience is 10 times more valuable than the platform knowledge.
Mm.
Uh, that being said, obviously I've built my career off of ExactTarget and Salesforce, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that they have such an amazing technology that lets me do all the cool creative things I want to do when I'm building a program. Um, but I would, again, like I said, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community. And the only way I got involved with the community was by actively putting myself out there in it. And
Mm.
it's hugely rewarding. That is absolutely the number one way to grow your career, is to get involved.
Get
Whether it's
involved.
marketing champions with Gilda, whether it's contributions that will get you to an MVP status, or or writing a book, whatever it is, or just simple questions on Slack. Getting involved is the absolute key.
Mm. That
Yeah,
one I agree. This one, the getting involved is the most important factor. It's not
yeah,
your how technical or how you are. Your technicality does not count that much. It's your involvement that counts.
yeah,
And I am more passionate with those consultant who give a beautiful answer than being a technical answer, giving a technical answer.
yeah.
So uh, thank you for your time, Chester. Though I
Okay.
had still had lot of things to discuss, but obviously you had that limited time. But and as I said, I again for the last time I would say this, right. Uh, if I'm bringing someone, okay, I do my homework
No, you
before
clearly did.
before
I'm impressed. I'm very
yeah
impressed.
yeah before coming before bringing the person, talking to the person, I do my homework. Okay, after calling and inviting a person, the till the date the invitation is sent, okay, I do the homework. During the conversation I do the homework.
Yeah.
Okay, and after the conversation also I do the homework.
Well, if you want part two, we can figure out a time to do that. Because I know we did have to cut this short, but no, I appreciate your preparation for this. This is probably the most prepared anybody has come to an interview that I've done. So I'm super impressed. I appreciate the time that you put into this. Hopefully this gives you something useful to put out there. But no, thank you.
Yeah, it's always okay. Let me end by it's always useful because when I do the editing, I listen to this conversation more than 20. Other people might listen one time, but the
Yeah.
person, me, listening 20 times, I learn. So this is my passion to that I'm learning from you and everyone. So and also I'm bringing the old people who are already outside. I'm going to pull them in and bring here. So that's my passion. So that's what I'm doing.
No, this is awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll stop this. I don't want to, yeah, time already you have passed more than 10 minutes here.
Uh,
Then there is simulated time. So let me
okay.
stop this.